Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Richard E. Castro, here with the Speak Your Mind Show. Welcome, and I'm hoping that we will have a good dialogue tonight and we will address some of the issues that are affecting us in this community. So, good evening, and as I said last show, if we're having any problems with accessing the cable, you can always find us as well at www.jtvlive.net. So on the internet, you can also stream the show live. Or as a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, anytime after the show, you can always go to the same address I just gave you, www.jtvlive.net, and you can look at the show at your leisure at any time. Any of the shows, as a matter of fact, all the previous shows, they're always up there, so you could always go and look at the show and benefit from, the discussion and the text that people add to the show, which makes it so interesting and so real. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's a live show, and we're going to be introducing a few topics shortly, and of course, I'm always open to discussions with members of our community. It's a live show, and it's also the people's show, so to speak. One of the topics I was planning to introduce was conditions on the sister islands. We're going to talk a little bit about conditions on the sister islands. I was going to talk about as well the lawyer's bill. There's a bill that would help the territory tremendously, in my opinion. It's about adding some regulations to the services that are provided by attorneys, and it also would fix one or two other loopholes that allow persons to use our country in my opinion, again, in a negative way. Then I was going to move on to the licensing of architects, engineers, and I was going to add to that as well the requirements for real estate agents, in the territory. I think that's a long burning issue with me. I think real estate, we should have some laws, some laws, Virgin Island laws, that regulate and also manage the way we deal with real estate on the island and on the islands. And I think that's something that we should be asking for, asking our legislators to look into and to make. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I know we have some big and some small real estate agents, but at the same time, we need public protection in some instances. And I think it would be a good idea to come up with these things as a suggested way of moving forward, putting the proper framework in place for a number of things. And then, I think we can rest more relaxed and assure that the short time that we are afforded here, we left the place in a better condition than when we came, which is something I think that all of us should try to achieve. We're only on a sojourn. We're only here for a time, so the least we could do is to ensure that we leave the place in a better condition than we met it, or we turn it over to the young people, the future generation, in a better condition than we then we met it. And ladies and gentlemen, I mean that at all levels. I mean it at the family level. I mean it at the country level. I mean it at the territory level, because that is what I think we should be concerned about, making the world a better place. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. And as I said earlier, though, I'm going to introduce a couple of topics, but also I want to hear from our community. I would like to believe that this is the People's Show, and the only way it could really be the People's Show is if the people speak to the community and use the Speak Your Mind show as a way of communicating with the rest of the community about your concerns, your solutions that you may have, or the things that you might have thought about that you are positive can work in our community. Because it is a known fact that no one person has all the answers. And I think from over the years of being involved in this dialogue with the community, it is here that sometimes I hear some of the most daunting things, or some of the most realistic ways of dealing with certain issues. So let us continue to dialogue. If I have an opinion and I keep it to myself, it might just be my opinion. If you have an opinion and you share it with me, we might find some common ground that might be even beneficial to the entire community. So ladies and gentlemen, don't be afraid, don't be scared, don't be negative, Put your ideas out there and dialogue with the rest of the community. Share your feelings, share your aspirations, share your desires. I've already put out there one of my ideas about affordable homes, about a way forward to try to stem the problem that we're having with young persons owning their own home. So it's a work in progress. It's not going to happen overnight. And a few people have already spoken to me, and for the persons that have spoken to me so far, it's all positive. So I don't see why we can't put our heads together and come up with a meaningful way to assist, especially the younger persons in the community who need to build. They need to start building. Building is for some people is a short span. For some people it's a lifetime effort. So the earlier you start, in my opinion, I think is the better for you. And I know we're fighting against big money. We're fighting against the banks. We're fighting against the insurance. We're fighting against persons who don't believe in this philosophy, but that's okay. Sometimes it's okay to fight, to be fighting against the fight, so to speak. I am convinced that it is possible, and I've seen it happen. So I know that sometimes if you see something happening, you have more confidence than someone who don't have the insight, or who can't see further than what's right in front of them. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with you. I said we're going to talk about conditions on the Sister Islands. I'm hoping that I would hear from as far away as Anegada and as close as Josh Van Dyke, since we know Anegada is some 40 miles away, and Josh Van Dyke is a bit closer, but the distance doesn't matter. We're one territory, and I continue to say that I think that the activities on Anegada are just as important as the activities on Tortola or Virgin Gorda or Josh Van Dyke, for that matter of fact. And that sometimes we are all guilty of maybe not paying as much attention as we should to the activities on the Sister Islands. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, I put a few topics out there. I put the topic about conditions on the Sister Islands. I put a topic about the lawyer's bill, which is awaiting approval. I put out there too the licensing of architects and engineers and other professionals, accountants, etc. I think we need to, put the framework in place to have these things dealt with properly. I will give you a scenario as it is right now as far as the regulations are concerned. I know personally, I know for a fact that we don't have in place what we should have in place for the architects and the engineers. And I have worked with some other professionals on this for many years. And we have gotten close, but we haven't gotten in the door, so to speak. So, I'm putting it out there that we should be very concerned that this situation exists. Many of us have went away to school, come back, situation is still the same. What are we putting in place for the young people who are coming after us? Is the situation going to be the same? Are they all going to be back in the Virgin Islands and there's no framework for them to develop professionally, for them to be licensed properly, to be able to call themselves a registered architect, or a registered engineer? I think we are beyond that stage now. We have to do whatever we have to do to support this type of framework, this level of development. We can't stay at the same level forever. We have to, we have to move on. We have to move ahead of where we are. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am promoting the licensing of professional people in the territory, and I think that the quicker we do it, the better. If we have any bugs in the system, we'll be able to deal with the bugs. But we need to put the framework in place, and we need to walk that framework. I think we can follow pattern from a number of places. We have places in the Caribbean that have done it already. We have right next door, St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands. They have done it as well. So it's not rocket science, and it's not reinventing the wheel. It's pretty straightforward. So I think we should take a page from those places that have already done it and just, get on with it and get it done. If not for me, at least for the future generation to come, so that they would have something. They would have something. And ladies and gentlemen, I can almost say without a doubt that there are other members in our profession that feel the same way, and not now, but for many years, and who have also promoted it, and just in their honor, I think we should fight for this and have it done. I'm hopeful that that this will become a priority, and I'm really begging the rest of the community to join with us and look into it. Look at the development that we have had so far. We've done a lot of development, and it's about time that we put the framework in place that would afford, especially for the young people. One of the paths of this this licensing that's very important is the internship. There's like a 3-year internship, and it's very good for the young professionals to work with someone who, in the past that was like a traditional thing that we had here, which was just understood that you would come and you would work with someone who is more developed than you are, and you would learn from that person. Now the framework, in my opinion, needs to be put in place to ensure that happens. And it's all well and good to get your academic training, but then your academic training should be also supplemented by some hands-on experience. And there are a number of critics that would say that we're doing good so far. Why change what we're doing? That's one of the thoughts. But as we're changing and we're also developing, and when you're developing, you sometimes you expose yourself to more risks. And one of the things that our government and our people, as a matter of fact, should always be conscious of is minimizing risk. And one of the ways to minimize risk in this area that I'm talking about is to put a framework in place to, as I said, to regulate or better manage what we're doing. Some people don't like regulations. Regulations sound like big brother government coming down on you and telling you what to do. I prefer to deal with it as a matter of a framework where the clauses or articles laid out that says what you can and what you can't do, and what are the penalties, and what are what are the consequences, and that way everybody understands what is expected, and everybody adheres to what is expected. And you also know, as a young person, if you're going to move forward, how you have to prepare yourself to move forward. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're at that stage in our development where we can, and I'm sure we will, do these things. We need to put the framework in place for professional people, so professional people can develop properly and have a good career and a good practice, and something that the younger people would want to emulate. They would want to do the same, or even, as some of my colleagues would say, they would want to jump higher. And that is something that we should promote. We should promote excellence, and the idea of moving from one level to a higher level in one's profession. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here promoting the licensing of professional people in the territory. And I added to my list also real estate agents. I think that we have some big players in the territory now, and we also have some small players. So it only makes sense to me that we put a framework in place to ensure that everybody that approaches or uses the services are given a fair amount of service, and that they're properly compensated for what they're doing, and also that the persons that use the service get in return what they pay for. And it all boils back as well, ladies and gentlemen, to that consumer protection. How do we protect our people from things that can go bad? I'm not saying that things are going to go bad. I'm just saying that if they go bad, what is there in place to protect our people from things going bad? Because we know Murphy Law. Murphy Law says that if something can go wrong, it will go wrong in any given set of circumstances. So let us be mindful that we can plan. We can plan that things don't go wrong by putting the proper framework in place. Once the framework is in place, we just have to work the documents to ensure that everyone gets a fair share. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with you. The numbers are up there if you want to call or text. It's 300-1949 if you're going to call, and 300-1950 if you're going to text. And I would be better, I'm pretty sure, if we could have some dialogue with members of the sister islands tonight, where we can hear firsthand from the ladies and gentlemen that live across the waters on the conditions on those places. I mentioned Anegada, Joshua Van Dyke, Virgin Gorda. Let us know what's going on. I'm sure that there are things to talk about. So I was just reiterating some of the topics that would be topical for us to talk about. However, if you have any other pressing issues that you want to talk about, feel free to speak your mind, as the show is dubbed The People's Show, and I'm the facilitator, and I'm here for you. We can expand on a number of topics. The other thing I said was the real estate. real estate agents, and the, you know, the whole area of advertising, buying land, selling houses, you know, developing property, putting in roads and drains, and improving property, and, you know, for families, or for resale. Not to mention the fact that we have some situations in the territory which I think could be described as speculating. We need to look at that as well. Speculation is where I might buy a piece of property for $1 million and subdivide it up and sell one house lot for $1 million. I mean, that's not rocket science. That is, you know, that is speculation, and we've seen that happening in the territory. It needs to be tightened, I think. I think we are of age as a country where we need to start looking more seriously at some of the issues where we're losing revenue, and where we're also losing jobs. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, losing revenue and losing jobs, the sponsors that make the show possible are asking for a break. So we're going to take a short break, and we're going to be right back with you. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, after a short break, I'm back with you. We were talking a little bit about real estate before I went, but I was thinking well off air that that we need to take a look at when we have jobs that are coming on stream. We should have this, the proper framework in place that would tie the projects to employment, especially employment of our young people. What I mean by that, I mean when we're having the various projects developed, not implemented, when they're being developed, we should put a priority as part of the project that a percentage of the workforce should be all young people that we have, that we have in the various programs out there now, that those young people can develop further by being a part of the project. You don't have to be a large percentage of the labor force. It could be a 10% or 8% or some percentage that I'm sure could be worked out. But the idea of having projects where 100% of the labor is not any of the young persons, I think is not a good idea. I think this is one way that our government can ensure that young people are beginning to take up their rightful place in our society. The same thing I would say as well for women in construction. Now I begin to see a number of women in construction, which I think is a good move. And I think we don't have any minority laws in the Virgin Islands, but this is a step in that direction as well, where we can, when we have jobs, we could say, well, you could have a minimum of, so many and so many women in the construction field on these jobs as well. I think it would help. When at the end of the day we had to show that we had a diverse trade, not just a macho male dominated trade. I've even seen women operators these days operating heavy equipment. It reminds me a young lady who is all the way back in New York now, but was here, and she was interested in operating heavy equipment as part of her training. So, let us look at these type of things in our community and make or put the framework in place for our young people to succeed. Once the framework is in place, I think that the rest is up to the citizens to follow, to make sure that they fit within the framework. And I think it's especially important where we have jobs. Tie the jobs to employment, and employment, especially for the young people. In this instance, for women in construction, I really think that we can do that. It diversifies the workforce and allows for a wider mix rather than just to be a male-dominated society. I think if I may add a little bit to the discussion on the beneficial ownership register, I think that we need to put our own house in order, as persons in the industry are saying. And I think we need to look at due diligence. We need to look at the compliance officers' function and how they are functioning or not functioning. We need to look at accountability. There's some companies who are putting some policies in place, and we need to look at whether those policies are making them more accountable or less accountable, or whether or not those policies are taking away some of the individual rights of some of the workers. So it may be a soul-searching time as well, to not only listen to what the OECD and the UK government and the France and the other countries that may be interested in blacklisting the Virgin Islands may be saying, but also to look at ourselves and see what we are doing that needs to be further, tweaked, or further scrutinized or further developed to make our product a better product. And I think that is something that will make us more resilient and better prepared, in case we have any further problems. I think it is only in our best interest that we protect the industry that provides somewhere in the region of $160 million per annum to the country. So it is important that everybody get on board, and I think it's the companies that are involved at the base, at the root, should look at every aspect. Look at the security, look at the management, look at the policies, look at the compliance, look at the due diligence. It's only fair that they improve their product, number one, and number two, improve the entire industry. I used to hear persons talking about know your client. It sounds like a simple idea or a simple philosophy, but it goes a long way. If you don't know who you're dealing with, you can't really deal with them properly. So knowing your client is something that's in the industry that that it says a lot. It helps the individual who is dealing with a particular client to really provide the service that the person may be asking for to 100%, just by knowing who that person really is. I think that I'm one of the people that think that if we the beneficial ownership register, I think if we do what is being asked, I think it's the same as giving up the industry. I think that's what I feel, and I don't think that should be an option. And I think if we had to consider that, I think the leadership in the country should have a discussion, a one-to-one discussion with the citizens, even before that, making that a thought, having that as a thought. I think would be detrimental to our country. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, another topic: the access to various public buildings and private buildings. Well, I said the access or the lack of access should be a real concern to us. I think we're seeing more situations on the tourism side where persons are, not as able as they were when they were younger, or because of an accident or whatever, they may be less able than they could be. And I think that we've come to the stage where we should look at providing some sort of, again, some framework for access into buildings. And I think it's very important that we look at, providing or having some framework in place where, even with government assistance, where you can get proper access into buildings, or some way of encouraging the owners of properties to provide a minimal amount of access, especially to persons who are challenged. And I don't mean a backdoor entrance. That is a no-no, in my opinion. I don't want to see the access in the front of the building for able-bodied people, and then you have a side or back entrance. I think the entrance for persons in the front should be for everybody, whether you're disabled or challenged, abled, or whatever. I think it should be the same. And I think we're missing the boat, especially, ladies and gentlemen. I'm saying this is reading month, and reading is connected directly to the library. And I'm going to say this: I think the library is one of the places where we should fight right now to get it on a ground floor. We need to look at proper access. I don't know if maybe I might be a dreamer when it comes to the library, but I see children just walking into the library. I see elderly persons just walking into the library, and maybe we need to look at something that I saw in New York when I was there recently, is an outlet library. You could have your main library, but you could also have outlet library that reach out specifically to young people. You could have outlet library that reaches out to children, where they have the collection and the choice of material and the choice of media is geared towards children. We could have that, and I think it's high time that we stop thinking about a library as just books, and think more in terms of the services that a library can connect with the community, and do more for we have a lot of persons who are more challenged than they were when they were growing up, and we shouldn't exclude them from the Virgin Islands experience, and that is the ability to listen to music, to read about what's happening in the community, to visually see. We could have videos taken of the various things that are going on in the community. It's not everyone who are able to drive and take a boat or whatever to go to the various places to see what's going on. So we could have that information available for our citizens to continually upgrade themselves on the development in the territory, and to be more a part of what's happening, and not to be excluded from what's happening. We should have more inclusion and less exclusion of our citizens. And I think it's one of the things that we should strive for. We need to strive for proper public access, especially in government owned and government rented buildings, and also in places where the public is expected to frequent on a regular basis. And that is something that could be done. Again, I know of instances where it's done. Is you have the American Disability Act, which is an act that spells out specifically, right down to the detail, of various things that needs to be done in order to provide proper access to various places. And it can be done. Ladies and gentlemen, we can do it. I am convinced that we can do it. And we don't have to wait until we get a situation or until we have to provide for one particular person. We don't have to do that. We can do that. We can plan to do it from now. And I think we can be successful at it as well. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with you to Speak Your Mind show. We're also live on www.jtvlive.net. And like I said earlier too, the numbers are up there if you want to call or text. We have 300-1949 if you're going to call, and 300-1950 if you're going to text. And so, it's an open show. You can dialogue with me. Don't be afraid to speak your mind, and don't lose courage, hope, and faith in the system. Continue to be proactive and get involved. Be a part of the country. Be a positive part of the country. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, I was just referring to that access. It's very important that we look at access and the idea of providing access not only for able-bodied people but for everybody. And ladies and gentlemen, at this time I have to take a break for the sponsors that make the show possible. But I'm going to be right back with you. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back with you after a short break. Before we went on the break, I got a text. I should go to that text first and read what it says. It says, "Why is that the roads that were repaired are dug back up? Why isn't there proper coordination among the agencies?" That's a good text that came in there. I'll comment on it. I am of the same opinion as you, especially knowing that the Ministry of Communication and Works is responsible for all of the agencies that are involved with doing that type of work. When I'm referring to Cable and Wireless, BVI Electricity Corporation, Water and Sewage, Public Works. They all fall under the one ministry, the Ministry of Communication and Works. And I think it is the responsibility of that ministry to coordinate all of the activities, including the digging up and the resurfacing of the roads. And I think some effort should be made to coordinate, to better coordinate the activities, to ensure that what we're seeing should not happen. We shouldn't see the road paved today and then dig up tomorrow, so to speak. It's a waste of taxpayers' money as well, right? Because we're the ones that pay for it every time it's done. So I think some, and also too, some public relations might help, by explaining to the public what is the plan moving forward. We shouldn't just learn the day before that the road is going to be paved or the road is going to be dug up. But they should have a long-term plan. Let's say a 1-year plan or a 6-month plan. I wouldn't even go so far as to speak like like in the communist countries, they talk about a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan. We may not be able to do that because of the election cycle. But at the same time, we definitely can do better than we are doing. We can have at least a 1-year plan of the activities that we plan to accomplish. I had another text that came in. It says, why would government start the new medical center in Virgin Gorda if we did not have the monies to do it? That's a text that came in as well. I couldn't answer that even if I try, because I don't have a clue about what's happening financially, because I think we're still awaiting report from the government on the various financial years that have already gone by. So when we get that information, the person that sent that text, when you would know, just like I would know, when we get that information, how we stand financially. I think we're begging the issue to know how we stand financially as far as the years that have gone by that we still have not had the records laid in the House or Assembly. So I'm with you on that we probably should, as citizens, we should be asking. I know for sure if I had to go to the bank tomorrow and say I wanted to borrow $200,000 or $300,000, they would say, well, show me your books for the last 3 years. They would say, let's see how you've been doing. Let's see some audited accounts for the last 3 years, signed by a known reputable accounting agency. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, we should be asking the same thing. We should be asking the same thing for the taxpayers that don't back when they go to pay. I got another text. What is the status of government moving forward with alternative energy? There are private residents that are willing and interested in cutting their energy consumption. That's a wonderful text that I just got there, because I'm also one of those persons who have already started trying to reduce my energy consumption. And I think that there are a whole bandwagon of people who are willing and able to even, start in the direction of alternative energy. And ladies and gentlemen, alternative energy we're talking about solar panels, we're talking about solar water heaters, we're talking about solar air conditioning units, we're talking about solar street lights. With the list goes on and on and on. There are a number of ways. The alternative energy is a big field, a wide field, and I think it's being pushed to the side, so to speak. We're not really seeing any real effort in the area at this point. I heard a lot of things that may happen. However, I'm one of those persons who, instead of speaking before, the persons in authority who can do these things, I prefer to wait for them to do them, because it's more productive to allow them the space to do what they have to do. But at the same time, I'm like the person that texts in there, we're waiting too long. We need to have some action, some stuff done that convinces us that we're serious about reducing our energy consumption. I personally started out by going on a website and doing an audit of my consumption, and you can do it as well. You can go to you can find a website online that could measure for you what your footprint is, your energy footprint, what your energy footprint is now, and then you can start going backwards of reducing your footprint. In other words, you're reducing the amount of energy that you consume, and you may be surprised to find out all the things that you do to increase your energy consumption. It goes right down to the clothes you wear. It's a phenomenal amount of information about this stuff out there. And ladies and gentlemen, I have some good news as well. The price per kilowatt of the solar panels is reducing almost daily. It's getting the technology is developing more, and the price is getting less. So, there's no real reason not to want to jump on the bandwagon, so to speak. And it's ironic that someone would text about that, because I was thinking about it and I was looking around and I noticed that a number of the yachts that we have in the territory have already started putting panels on the yachts. So what are we waiting for with the buildings? What are we waiting for? I understand that the yachts don't have any competition with the monopoly. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm choosing my words carefully. The yachts do not have any competition with the monopoly. So there's not a problem there. However, those of us who are on the grid, we are having a little more of a challenge to get going. As far as I know, we're on the way, but we're not there as yet. But we need to get there. We need to start looking at systems and putting the various things in place. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to clear the air on one topic, and that is the idea that the alternative energy, the solar energy, can be installed in such a way that it feeds back into the grid and cause a hazard or a danger to linesmen. I think I have done enough research, and I know of other persons in the electrical field who have done research as well. And I can say that once the installation is done properly, and once we put the proper mechanism in place to certify and to check the installations, it probably will be as safe as adding any other component to the grid as it is right now. And I think that would take the fear out of some people of saying that, oh, if persons reduce their electricity bill and add solar, then is a possibility that the electricity from the house can go back to the line, etc., etc. So I think we need to put that to rest and explain to the public that the technology and the equipment is there already and it's available to prevent that from happening. I have another text that came in. It said, how are we going to deal with the sargassum seaweed? Consider that it is having such a major impact on our ability to receive water. Is BVIEC protecting the inlet pipes at Parkwood Pond? What is the plan, or do we have to depend on volunteers to clean up? That's a loaded text. I'm pretty sure I saw some people today cleaning up, which is a honorable effort, I must say. But I think we have to take those things seriously. I think you're raising a very important point. The place where the water goes into the, not only BVIEC, but also Bywater and all the other persons who pump water from the sea into their facility to convert the water into potable water. How are those areas being protected is an issue, one. And two, the other issue too is a much bigger issue. How are we ensuring that the places where we are storing the water is being protected? I see a number of them that don't even have gates on them. Anyone can just drive into these facilities. I think a security measure, these places should be properly protected in this day and age. I think we have to stop being naive, and we have to look at security from a different point of view. Security as protecting assets. I have some other texts that come in. Please be careful with these people who text in about Virgin Gorda Hospital. They can't even call, but hiding behind text. But I take your comment, and it will always happen. I take your comment, ladies and gentlemen. Remember that that we're in a real world, and that some people will continue to be who they are. I subscribe to a number of online news as well, and it is an ongoing situation where persons will use the media to get their point of view across, and that is what it is. I don't think censorship is anywhere around the corner. However, we do have challenges in the country from time to time, and sometimes it is ordinary citizens who come forward. Sometimes it's journalists. Sometimes it's persons who put themselves in a position to be able to, to speak on various issues. However, the truth usually, straightens out any problem that we may have in the community. We just asking our citizens or government, everybody, to be truthful and do what you have to do. Represent all of us. We are in a territory where we all have 5 representatives. 4 at large and 1 in a district, and just be truthful and be honest about what you're doing, and I think everything will be fine. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, one of the last things I wanted to put out there, that families with large portions of land should get together and plan the subdivision. Go the added step of looking at the possibility of including roads, including drains, including services, the various services, telephone, cable, and by doing this, what you'll be actually doing is you'll be improving the property for sale, so that if in the event you decide to sell 1 or 2 other lots, you'd actually get a better price for the lots than you would get if you just did a subdivision for the family without really taking into consideration all those things that I just said. I got another text that came in. Not using the media, wanted to know why the work was stopped at the medical center. We'll call it, the person that texted that as news to us. I didn't know the work was stopped. That's something I'm pretty sure it is something we really need. I totally agree with you. It's something that we really need. We need that facility on Virgin Gorda. Another text that came in, I realized they're fixing the town roads. What about the roads at East End? Why are we doing with the harbor development project at East End, Fat Ox Bay? That would have been a good discussion. I make a note so that we could talk about that. The harbor development in East End, Long Look. I'll make a note of that, but ladies and gentlemen, as you would realize, we're just at the end of the show, so to speak, and we wouldn't have time to get into that. What we can do is we can beg and plea for some update on the information concerning that development, and see if we get some response. We have a number of entities that are interested in public opinion on the show. So if one of them that has the information could bring up that information for us, we'll be more than willing to dialogue with them and talk about it, because I think that is a development that would, in my opinion, transform that entire area in a positive way, by providing added space, more organization, etc. And also promote one of the things that I have been talking about for a while, and that is the development of centers outside of Rotown to do business, so that you don't have that bottleneck effect where everybody comes into town to do good, to provide goods and services, where some of the services that do not need to be located in the Rotown area could be located in the suburban area, from as far away as East End, as far away as West End. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, we had a wonderful show. I tried to engage some discussion on Sister Island. We only got one idea, and that's what we got. I think that the bill to regulate lawyers, I think that's awaiting approval. I think that's something we have to push and ask for that to be put on the front burner. The architects, engineers, accountants, real estate agents, we need to see some framework put in place to have the licensing of those persons regulated properly. I said that jobs should be tied to employment for the young people. I think that that's something that our government can do. When they're signing a contract, they could say, well, this would provide 25 jobs for our young people. And that could be a condition and a part of the contract. Don't wait for the particular contractor or contracted entity to, on their own, decide whether or not to have 100% expatriate labor force, or whether they can meaningfully engage our young people to be part of the project. Beneficial owner registry, I think we need to look within ourselves, tighten our compliance, tighten our accountability, do proper due diligence on our clients, etc. In other words, we need to improve on our product. We need to make our product bulletproof. I talked about access to buildings, especially public buildings. We need to consider a ground floor library or a ground floor library outlet for children and elderly people. I think we look at, and the last thing we were there talking about was subdivision of land by families, where they should put in the necessary services to improve the value of the property before sale, and that would improve the quality of the house lots that are available for persons to purchase. Ladies and gentlemen, we had a wonderful show. We had some text that came in that spur discussion, and I think the show is what it is. It's the people's show, and was able to shed light in some of the areas that are necessary in the territory for us to build a better territory. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I usually say God bless these Virgin Islands and the people that live in them. I'll see you again next week.